Welcome to Your Story Doesn't End Here, the mental health podcast for military and veterans. I'm your host, Rachel, and my mission with this podcast is to be a voice for those who don't have a voice, bring awareness to mental health issues, and provide value and solutions to help make life more abundant. Thank you, everyone, for coming by for another episode of Your Story Doesn't End Here. Today's guest is Dani. She did 5 years in the Navy. She's now medically retired, and she's a mom of 2 dogs and 1 human. She is 27 years old, has been married for 5 years, and is currently podcasting and being a mom. Thanks so much for being on the show today, Dani.
Hi, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. I guess I'll just kind of tell my story. I want to start in boot camp because I feel like that's where everything starts, right? So I feel like boot camp was totally normal, except for like the very last night for me. So we had just graduated. Everyone, goes out and hangs out with their families. Everyone's super hyped up because the next day you're like flying out to go to your A schools. And then that night, I don't know, like all of our RDCs were like missing. I don't know where everybody was, but it was just like they let the monkeys run the zoo, and all these newly graduated like recruits were like just going crazy. And so I was like, this is great. I'm going to take a nap. I'm going to go to bed early. Like I'm tired. I have an early flight. Like this is going to be awesome. So I got in bed at like 7:30, 8 o'clock, stupid early. And then my friend, or I guess I thought she was my friend at the time. So she came in and she brought all these guys because we had a co-ed, division, and she brought all these guys from our division over into our room, and they were like climbing on the beds, and one of them had gotten up in my bunk with me, and I was like trying to sleep. So I was like, you guys need to go, like I'm tired. And they're like, no, just get up, it's fine. And then some like the other divisions RDC came in and like found all these guys like in my bed because they were trying to like get me up, and I was so mad. And they started screaming, and they're like, you guys need, everyone get up, get in your dress whites, blah blah blah. They're like, whose bunk were they in, whose bunk? And they're like, you get up. And they got me up, and I'm in my dress whites, and they're like, anybody else involved? And nobody got up. And it was so she caught like 2 guys running back because they like exited through the laundry room and ran back into like their compartment, and like got me. And then the girl that had actually brought all these guys into our compartment, like she got back in her bunk. It was pretending to be asleep. And I was like, so the RDC had like walked across to find the guys, and I was like, you need to get up. And she's like, no, absolutely not. And I was like, what the heck? Like, you brought these guys in here. And she's like, well, I don't want to go back to P days. I don't want to go all the way back to the beginning of boot camp. And I was like, neither do I, but I'm taking responsibility for the fact that these guys were literally in my bed because of you. And like, I don't want this. I don't want to go get like captain's mast right now. And she's like, I'm not getting up. And like, luckily they just like took us down to the quarterdeck, like made us stand in corners like 3-year-olds and like think about what we did, and then like just scare us and sent us back to our compartments. And honestly, like I don't know if they actually could ASMO us at that point, like send us back to P days, because like we had already graduated. But I was just so angry, and I was like, is this what like people really are like people don't take responsibility? And it started me off like kind of like with a sour taste in my mouth. Like I thought that this was where everyone had each other's backs. I thought that this was where like everyone came together, the camaraderie, the like I don't know, like the family aspect, but it wasn't. And so I mean, fast forward, I had a great time in A school. I had great friends, and we partied like crazy. We were drinking underage. Shouldn't have been doing that, but like we're kids and we're just trying to have fun. So like I think everybody does it, and I know everyone's like, oh, I probably shouldn't have, but like, I mean, if we went back, we'd do it again. And so then I went up to Whitby, to Washington, and went to C school there, and I didn't have as many friends. And so like a couple people that were like a couple classes ahead of me from A school that I kind of knew, I kind of like latched onto them and started hanging out with them. And they're really cool. I started like sleeping with one of the guys. We weren't dating, but we were just sleeping together, which was fine. Like whatever. Right. And then we all went to our command that was up there. And actually, before we went to our command, this was still all in C school. We went out to a party, and it was a house party because one of the girls, she got married. And so she was having like a house party because like they were celebrating, they eloped. And so they were celebrating this like marriage. And I was like, okay, like I barely know you, but this guy that I'm sleeping with wants to go. So I was like, oh, I'll just go with him. Plus, like he's gonna drink. I'm underage. I just won't drink. And I will like drive him back to the barracks at the end of the night and it'll be fine. Um, and he didn't have a car. So like I had the only means of transportation, which was sounded good. Like it was a good plan. I should have stuck to my plan because it was a really good one. But instead, I got there, everyone was drinking. I wasn't. I was doing good. Like 4 hours into this party, because we got there like 3 p.m. It was going to be like an all-night thing, apparently. They were like, why aren't you having a good time? And I was like, well, you guys are drinking, you guys are drunk, and I'm not. Like, I'm just watching you guys be stupid. Like, this isn't really fun for me. Like, I want to go home. And they were like, well, if you just drink, like, you can stay here. Like, you don't have to worry about driving back. Like, you can just stay here. And I was like, I don't know. They showed me the guest bedroom. They showed me where I could sleep. Nobody else was supposed to be staying over, just me. They said it would be fine. Like, this guy that you're here with, he'll stay with you. And he was like, yeah, sure, I'll stay with you. I'm like, okay. So I was like, cool, like, let's do it. Right. So I started taking tequila shots. We were taking them out of red Solo cups. Do not advise that because you can't like tell how much is a shot. It was like 3 shots in one. And I was playing catch up at that point. So everyone's drunk. I'm taking like multiple tequila shots. I'm drinking. I'm just like going crazy. And I know most of the people at this party, but there was a couple people I didn't know. And one guy gave me like stupid bad vibes. And I just like stayed away from him. I was like, not a big deal. Nobody else is staying here tonight, just me and the guy that I'm here with. And he swore like he'll be here. Like, so I got so drunk to the point where I like threw up and then like went to bed. I didn't necessarily pass out, but like I went to bed. And then like who knows how long, some guy walked into my room. And here I thought, like, this is the guy that I was supposed to be with. This is the guy that like I had been sleeping with, I had been like with, and he was supposed to be here with me. So totally fine. So I start getting naked, like in my drunkenness. I don't know. I was still like in and out of consciousness. And some guy I didn't know was in my room. And at one point he had asked me, like, do you remember my name? And I told him what his name was. And he was like, so he took that as consent. And at one point he had asked, like, do I need a condom? And in my drunken state, we were at 2 females' houses, so they wouldn't have had a condom. In my thought, like, this is my thought process, right? They don't have a condom. If he doesn't have a condom, he'll think that I have an STD and he won't want to sleep with me and he'll leave. And again, he took that as consent. He left. Actually, he did leave for a while, but then he came back. I don't know if he found a condom or what, but I just remember like falling asleep, waking back up, falling back asleep, waking back up. Finally, I realized like what was actually happening to me. And I got up drunk. I was so drunk. And I don't know how I even got all my clothes on and stumbled. I don't remember putting my clothes on and getting out the door, but I do remember that one of our friends who was there was on duty. So he was not drinking. And he is my saving grace because he put my keys in my shoe. So when I put my shoes on, like I found my keys and then I left, I got in my car and I called him. It was like 2 a.m. And I said, like, this, like, I think I was just raped and I need you to come get me because I'm pretty sure like I can't drive. I don't know what to do. And he was like, just pull over. And I couldn't like pull over because I was like, I was in somebody's yard. Like my headlights were in their house. Like I couldn't pull over. So I told him like, I know this like parking lot, come to this parking lot, come get me. And he did. He came and got me and he took me back and he's like, should we go to the hospital? I said, no, like I'm underage, I'm drunk, like take me home, like just take me back. And I called my parents and I don't know why, like that was like my go-to, like they need to know like what happened to me. Although like that was kind of a bad situation, I think. But yeah, I don't know. And then like the couple days afterwards, like I told the guys that were supposed to be there, like all of my friends that were there, like I told them what happened, and I thought they might have believed me, but like later on in my life, like realized that they definitely did not. They thought that like I was just having sex with him, and then I decided I didn't want to. Um, but I realized like after that, I got super depressed. I didn't really sleep, or I slept all the time, and I didn't really leave my room. Um, or like I don't know. And the friend that was on duty, the like only sober friend, like I said, my saving grace, because I would have killed myself had he not come to my room every single day for the next 6 months. Every single day he was at my room, like just there. Like I don't even know what I was doing, probably like watching Netflix, like doing nothing. Like, and he came every single day and he saved my life. Um, but like they didn't believe me because there's this lake where everyone goes cliff jumping, and they all invited me out to go cliff jumping. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like if they invited me to go do something, I would go, but I wouldn't like purposely go out of my, like go out and do anything. So they all invited me. I showed up, and the guy, my rapist showed up, and I like, what do I do? And I was like walking, at first I was like walking really far behind them. And I was like, you guys knew. And they were like, we didn't know he was going to be here. And I was like, you know what I said? Like, do you not believe what I said? Like, I told you. And they were like, oh, we didn't know. So finally I was like, I'm just going to go sit in the car, because I didn't drive myself. And so I had to like wait for the person to come back to drive me back to base. Like I just had to wait and just like cry and freak out and cry. And then eventually we all got to our command, like our actual like C command, where we could actually go on deployments and learn our real jobs and do our real stuff. And I think like part of what I needed to do was tell people, and I shouldn't have done it, but like I needed to tell my story a lot to kind of validate that I'm not making this up. Like this actually happened. Like I didn't feel like I was sexually assaulted because I wasn't physically like hurt. I wasn't physically in pain. I had no bruises. I had no marks. Like nothing had happened, right? Like I just like had sex with some guy, and like I wanted to have sex with this other guy, so it was totally fine. And then later on, way later on, a therapist was like, no, still rape. I was like, oh, okay. Um, but when I got to my command, I started having panic attacks really bad. And they were always about snakes, which is weird. And somebody once told me like it was just my fear like manifesting itself, because you're really vulnerable when you're sitting on a toilet. And it started with like, I had this thought that like a snake would come up out of the toilet and get me. And I did not pee properly on a toilet for a year and a half. And I don't think I showered properly for like a year plus, because I would have panic attacks almost every single time I entered a bathroom. And they started getting more severe. And I had a friend like tell me like, hey, maybe we should just go talk to somebody. Let's go to Fleet and Family. We'll talk to one of the counselors there, and like we'll see, like something's going on. Like it's not normal for somebody to randomly start having panic attacks. Let's just go like figure it out. She's like, if we go to Fleet and Family, because I was like, I don't want to be downed. As an air crewman, like I did not want to be downed. I did not want to be able to not fly. I wanted to fly. I wanted to do my job. And like this was the last thing. Like this was it. Like this is all I had left of like my prior self. Is I knew I was going to be an air crewman. I knew I was going to fly in the Navy. And she was like, if we go to Fleet and Family, they can't down you because they're not part of our like medical system. I'm like, okay, cool. I had told our flight doc about it. Well, no, after that, I decided I needed to make a report. I needed to report what had happened to me. It'd been 6 months, and I needed to report it because two out of my three sisters were in the Navy. All of my friends, I started thinking about all these people that I know that are like all these women that like, if I don't report this guy could do it again. And if I don't report this, like they're not going to do something about it. Nothing's going to happen. And then I'm like part of the problem at that point. So I reported it. I did an unrestricted report, went all the way up. At one point they asked me, like his lawyers or whoever was defending him were like, well, what were you wearing? And I was like, jeans and a t-shirt. Like, what does that have to do with anything? They're like, well, were you in a relationship at the time of the assault? or the alleged assault. And I said, no, I was not in a relationship. I was sleeping with this guy who left me that night for like to sleep with this other girl, but like we weren't in a relationship. We were just like hanging out. They're like, okay, well, like they just started asking me all these questions. And I was like, I don't understand how that has anything to do with the fact that like this guy attacked me. Like, I don't understand. And they're like, well, here's the deal. It comes down to a he said, she said. All the witnesses that you claim were there lied and said that nothing happened. And I was like, well, they didn't see anything. Everyone was drunk or passed out. Literally nobody was awake. This predator waited until I was sleeping, until everybody had left or was sleeping, to come into the room that he knew I was in, passed out drunk, because I passed out before anybody else, and to do this. Like it was like preemptive. And they're like, well, like nobody can collaborate your story. So like it didn't happen. I was like, cool. Okay, great. Like, I'm glad that this is the thing. And I think everybody lied and they said there was no drinking at the party. And it was because I was underage. Like they didn't want to get in trouble because I was underage. And so that was really upsetting. But then in our command, rumors spread quickly. And I don't know for sure. I never actually heard the rumors, but I know that everyone that came around, like knew what it was, because like everyone just acted weird around me. When I was out on deployment, like nobody would go out with me. Like you have to have a Liberty buddy to go out in town when you're in a different country, and nobody would go out with me. Like everyone thought like, I'm just going to cry wolf. I'm going to be the girl that calls rape on the next guy. Like, and I didn't want to drink because I was uncomfortable in those situations. I didn't want to, like, I just wanted to go out and enjoy the countries we were in, and nobody wanted to go with me. And that's not true. I had a couple of friends every now and then that would go. I had a pretty good like girlfriend when I was in like one country, and she did a good job about coming out and doing things with me until like she had to go home because she had a tragedy. And actually my last deployment, it was probably like, it was the best deployment in the worst place. And so like I had these two friends, and they were awesome, and they hung out with me, and they did everything, and it was fantastic. And they were not in our command. They were in a different command, but they were like my friends, and we did everything together, and it was great. And I was like, this is what deployment was supposed to be like this whole time. Like, this was it. Like, this is what I've been missing out on. This is awesome. So that was really good, because all my other deployments, I was really sad. I was really like lonely. I had panic attacks multiple times. And like, what do you do about that? Because if you report them as an air crewman, they'll down you or they'll ground you. And eventually they ended up grounding me. Because I told our flight doc, like, yeah, I had a panic attack. Like, I've had panic attacks, but this is why, and I'm getting help for them. And then the last time I went to my flight physical, they were like, well, if you're still having them and it's been this many years, like, we can't just keep approving that. And I was like, oh, I shouldn't have said anything. I should just shut my mouth. Like, they can't keep approving extensions. Like, we need you to go to mental health. Like, we need you to go. And I broke down, and I was like, I don't want to go to mental health. I don't need help. I'm fine. I don't need help. I'm good. Like, everything's fine. And then I went to mental health because I was like, in my brain, I said, if I go and I show them that I'm fine and I do the work, like they just want me to like go and tell them all my dirty secrets, and fine, we'll work through it really fast. And then I'll be able to fly again in like 3 months, like 3 months tops, no problem at all. Grounding's not permanent. Like, they can unground me. It's just like a long-term down. Like, it's fine. So I went to mental health, and my third appointment, she did like the scale. I don't remember what it's called, but like the PTSD scale. And she's like, for every yes, it's a point. And for every no, it's no points. Count the yeses on your fingers. And at the end, she's like, how many yeses do you have? And I said, like, I think I had 11. And she's like, somebody without PTSD has like 1, maybe 2. And I freaked out. And I was so mad. And she's like, what is wrong with you? She's like, why are you so upset about this? Like, what about this is so like traumatizing or triggering to you? And I said, this is all I had left. After everything was taken from me, after everybody, like everything I knew about myself was taken from me, like all I had was flying. Like, that was all I had of my like prior self. And now that's gone too. This guy has officially taken everything I was before. He's taken it from me. Everything. like, I thought I could like salvage something. I thought I could be okay. And he like took it all. So the person I was and everything I had was gone at that point. And not like in a it was the worst thing and best thing that ever happened to me, because had that not happened, like I wouldn't have met my husband and I wouldn't be like where I am now with like our baby and our life. But like I don't want that. Like I didn't want to get here this way. And so I went back to our command. They were never gonna let me fly again, and I had realized at that point like they weren't gonna let me fly. And so I just like stopped doing my job. I stopped going out to the plane to work on it. I just stopped functioning in our command. I stopped doing what I was supposed to do. And I had one chief, and he is like a saving grace. To this point, he said, if you ride this out, you could potentially get medically retired and be set up for the rest of your life. Did I want to hear that? No, absolutely not. I said, no, I don't. I'm fine. I can just finish my contract and get out. It'll be fine. And he said, no, like this is like the way to go. If they're going to diagnose you with PTSD, like get the medical retirement and you'll be okay. And I didn't want to hear that. Am I happy about it now? Absolutely. They got me out of the command. They needed my spot to be filled up with somebody that could actually fly, somebody that could actually do the job. So they kicked me out. I went to a different command until I like just waited to be separated. But there's like a huge difference. And I kind of want to explain like the difference between like a medical retirement and a medical separation, because they're different. Because a medical separation, you have to have like less than 30% like disability from the Navy. So the Navy and the VA give you separate disabilities. The Navy has to deem you less than 30% like messed up to give you a medical separation, which is just like, here's a severance package, get out of our Navy, admin sep, you're done. Like, we don't want you, but like, here's something for your trouble. Medical retirement is like similar, like we don't want you anymore, but like, we'll give you a little bit more for your trouble. So you get like the retirement benefits so you have to be more than 30% disabled from the Navy, and the Navy and the VA like always disagree, like their disability ratings. On the Navy side, you had to be more than 30%. I was found like 60% from the Navy and like 70% from the VA, which has changed since then. But at the time, and they were like, yeah, get out. And somebody told me, I don't remember who, but saving grace, she said, as soon as you get out, get on TRICARE. TRICARE is like the military healthcare. And you, as a retiree, you can still like get it and you can get all the benefits from it. And she told me, like, as soon as you get out, get on TRICARE, because like if you wait a certain amount of time, you're no longer eligible for it. So get on it, even if you don't need it, pay the money and do it. And it's like so cheap. And I had my son for like no money out of pocket. I think I paid $200 to have a baby, like unheard of. But like there's so many people in my story along the way that like helped me. I remember like when I first started going to mental health, and they're like, hey, there's this group, and this is so sad. I don't even know if I want to share this part, but there's this group of other women that are in the similar situation as you, that have been sexually harassed or sexually assaulted. They were all sexual assault victims. And like, if you would like, I think that you would really benefit from going to this group. And I was like, that's stupid. I'm not going to the group. And then I did go to the group, because I was like, at that point, I was like, if I still do all the things that they want me to, I can fly again. And so I went to the group, and I was like, this is great. All these women are so much more fucked up than I am. And I am doing great. And everything's so good. And then through my journey of like mental health while I was in the Navy, that I realized like I'm not as well as I thought I was. Like I was putting on this like, I don't know. I was like lying to myself and everybody around me. And then I got out, and I've been out, I don't know, since like the middle of 2018. And I didn't realize like how traumatizing and triggering being on a like military installation with other people in uniform is, until I wasn't there anymore. And like, it was like my whole like journey of like healing and like figuring out who I am now started then. And I was sexually assaulted in 2014. I was 19 years old. Like it was 4 years later. And I was like, oh my goodness, like I can actually heal. And I started, and I went to a hypnotherapist for several sessions, and that changed my life. And then when I got pregnant, I started going regularly to a therapist. I still see her now because I started panicking. Not really, I didn't have a panic attack, but I started freaking out. Like, I'm about to have a kid and I'm going to pass down all of my trauma and all of my fear and all of my issues to this kid. And I was scared. I didn't know at the time, like, if it was a boy or a girl. And I was scared, if it's a girl, like, how do I explain this to her? And if it's a boy, how do I raise him properly? And my therapist stopped me when I asked her these questions. She stopped me right in my tracks and she said, just like raise them the way you would raise them. She said, you are a good person. And like you know, like the warning signs. And so you know how to raise a child, a male. I realized I was having a boy. She's like, you know how to raise him to where he won't be like this. And obviously my husband, I met in the Navy still. I actually met him, poor guy. I met him like 3 months after this happened. We started dating right as I reported all of this. And he had to go through this entire journey. He did not have to. He did not have to. I asked him to leave me so many times. But he just like went through it. And she's like, is your husband a bad guy? Like, is he a rapist? Is he a pedophile? Is he a bad person? Is he a predator? I was like, well, no. She's like, what are you worried about? I was like, I don't know. Like, I don't want to be messed up forever. And I think I will be. That sounds bad. I think I will be messed up forever, but like, I can work on it so much, but like, I will never not be scared of snakes. I live in the middle of nowhere now, and it's dark here. It's so dark here, like darker than like anywhere else I've ever lived. And I am constantly in fear that somebody's going to jump out and get me, to the point where like our landlord showed up one time, and we're really good friends. Like, he just shows up at our house. We show up at his house. Like, we're great friends with him. And I pulled a gun on him because I don't know, like some random guy was showing up at my house and I wasn't going to have it. And then I quickly put it away because I was like, I mean, I know proper gun safety. So I knew, like, you know, you look at who's actually like coming into your house before you just like start pulling a trigger. And I just put it away before his kids came in, luckily. But like, you know, I don't know. I always have this like looming fear, like somebody's going to get me, something's going to happen. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't think I'll ever get rid of the hypervigilance of my PTSD, but I think that I'm better now that I can like actually tell my story and not like fully break down and not make a bunch of jokes about it. Like, and I don't know. It's just crazy. Like, it's crazy the amount of people that knew about it and didn't believe me. And when I made my report and they're like, what do you want to get out of this? And I said, I just want somebody to believe me. And they said, well, like who? Somebody asked me, who do you want to believe you? And I said, I don't know. Like, and at the point, like, I didn't know, like, how do I answer this question? Like, I want the NCIS reporters to believe, or like agents to believe me. I want the people I was there with to believe me. I would just want, literally, if one person would have said, I believe you, like, I really think that this happened and I want to help you, it would have changed my life. But like, nobody did that. Instead, they shunned me. They didn't want to train me. They didn't want to take me. Before my trainee deployment, I told my trainer, like, hey, this happened. And he was like, but did it really? Because like my friend just had a false accusation against him and I just don't know. And I was like, why would I go out of my way to tell you that this happened for you to like just question me? Like, I'm not just like making shit up.
So obviously going through the whole SAPR VA process and all that, reporting unrestricted. And I don't think I've explained to the listeners the difference between unrestricted and restricted in the Navy. Just to kind of give like a brief overview. Restricted essentially just stays within a very select group of people. People aren't supposed to know about it. Unrestricted is where they do like the full on investigation, NCIS, what have you. And in another episode, I'll go more in depth on what that is. But obviously, you did an unrestricted report. How do you feel about the process of how the Navy handles sexual assault cases, having been through it?
They don't care. And it hurts my heart to say that, but I know that it's the truth because I mean, and maybe it was the fact that like they didn't have enough evidence and they felt like, but they at several points throughout the whole process, they were like, well, are you sure you want to continue with it? And I know that half of it was for me, but half of it was for them as well. Like they didn't think that they could get, like they weren't going anywhere. Like they thought like, oh, we're just ruining this kid's life for no reason. Like, and that's not what was happening, because later on, after I went through my entire reporting process and they had deemed like, there's no way, they told me there's no way that he's going to get convicted of anything. There's no way like we can prove that this happened. They said, we don't think that you should continue with this process. So we never actually went to trial. We never actually got that far. I was like, if that's what you think, okay. I was naive and stupid. I should have pushed it, just like make a point, but I didn't. And they're like, my like lawyer was like, I don't think that we should keep going, and it's going to be hard, and they're going to re-traumatize you on the stand, and so maybe you should just stop. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, you're right. And so I stopped. Later on, my little sister, her friend was in the same command as this guy, and her friend and this guy were out one night with some other people, and her friend knew the history, called my sister, was like, I want you to know that I was out with this guy. He was being sexually aggressive towards another girl, and I had to like stop it. And my sister calls me and she tells me this, and I freaked out. And I was so angry because the Navy could have stopped it. The Navy could have kicked him out, could have done something. The Navy should have done something. The Navy should have protected me and this other girl, and who knows how many other girls. Like the Navy should have done that. But how many reports do they have? And I don't know this, but how many girls did he have to sexually assault or sexually harass or be sexually aggressive towards, whatever that's supposed to mean, before they did something? And let me tell you, they never did anything. He got an honorable discharge and got out of the Navy one day. So like, should you do an unrestricted report? Should you do a restricted report? Like, I don't know. Obviously that's up to every victim. But my mentality was like, I'm part of the problem if I don't try to fix it. And then I tried to fix it and it became a problem for me. So like, I think the Navy doesn't care. The Navy doesn't, they want to use and abuse you. You are a number, and they will replace you just as easy as they got you.
Yeah, I don't even know like the solution at this point for it, like to be completely honest with you, because it's a problem that runs so much deeper, I think personally, than just sexual assault.
Oh yeah.
Because you have all these different facets to it, like females serving and males that serve, and like we know males get sexually assaulted too. And
Absolutely.
God, there's so much to it. But what I want to talk about next is just kind of like on a command level. If you felt like you ever got really supported by your command as you were going through this, I know you had kind of mentioned things about people not really believing you, and you kind of hinted a little bit at how it was at the command. But if you don't mind going a little deeper into how it was at the command, if you felt supported when you were going through this process, and kind of where your head was at that time.
I'm glad you asked this question because I had like a thing that I wanted to touch on and I completely forgot about it in my story. Actually, two things. So like I said, I know that there was whispers, like they call it like the airman underground, like all these people, like all these, and everyone hears about it, but the like higher ups just like I don't know, they don't like believe into it as much as like the lower little junior enlisted. And so like there was definitely rumors going around that like I'll cry wolf, like I'll just like cry rape, like, you know, all that. So as like an IFT and on our platform, like you can't fly our plane without an IFT. Without, well, you can, but the skipper of the command has like the commanding officer has to approve it. So it's like it's more of an inconvenience, like more like so much more of a hassle, more paperwork, so much more if you don't have an IFT than it is like just get your IFT to fly. And that was my job. Was I was an in-flight technician. So I did your job, but I flew. Um, and so I remember when I was at one of our debt sites had 2 planes and 2 crews. And one of the crew members from the other crew was the guy that was supposed to be with me that night, the guy that I was sleeping with at the time. And I had started to kind of blame him. And I still feel rightfully so, like I should blame him a little bit. I mean, he didn't do the deed, but like he led to it. And so I was blaming him severely at that point for that this happened to me. And that day they were like, yeah, he's going to fly with us. And I was like, oh no, I can't fly with him. And they're like, no, it's fine. And they're like, no, it's not fine. And so I went into a room with our like the highest ranking guy on our plane. And I went into this room and I was like, please, like, I cannot fly with him. And they're like, everyone has personality differences that we just have to get over. And I was like, no, like I will drop my wings before, because it's a voluntary thing to fly. So like if you drop your wings, you never fly again. Then they have to figure out the IFT situation, right? I said, I will drop my wings before I fly with him. And they're like, you have to get over this. Everyone has personality differences. And I was like, you are not hearing me. I was raped and this guy was there and did nothing and I will not fly with him. And they were like, oh my God, you didn't have to get like that. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like, I didn't have any other choice. Like, I had no other option but to yell at you and explain what happened to me, this traumatic event that happened to me. I'm trying to tell you in like a more calm, like subtle way, like, hey, I can't do this. I can't do this until I finally have to explode for you to even hear me. Like, no, I'm not flying with him. And they're like, okay, well, we'll just kick him off the flight. And I'm like, thank you. Like, I'm more important than he is. There's plenty of people that do his job that are on our crew. There's one of me. That's it. One of me. If I drop my wings, you're not flying. Then everybody's done today. And he was the senior or the highest officer was all like, you know, beside himself because he's like, I just didn't think it had to get like that. I was like, oh, you've got to be kidding me. But also another instance, and actually this came up really recently for me, like within the last month. I was crying and I called my therapist and I needed to figure out, why am I so upset? Because one of my really good friends that I was in the Navy with, it felt like to me, and I know this is just my perspective of this whole situation, and I haven't told her this, but it felt like to me that she had every opportunity, every door open, chiefs, officers, whoever, jumped through hoops to get her what she wanted, to get her like the good command after our command, to get her like the good collateral duties, to get her into the good departments to work in, to get her the good deployments, to go to the really cool places. And I feel like I just got swept under the rug and forgotten about and like shut out. And I was like, what? Like, why? It's because I made a report. I rang the bell. I was the squeaky wheel. I was the hammer that got, or the nail that got hammered. Like I stuck out and I didn't play by the rules. I didn't get every qualification. I needed extra attention and they didn't want to give it because I went through this event. And I realized, or my therapist helped me realize, I was sad, not at her, because like, I'm really happy for her getting those, and that she didn't have to deal with these types of things in the military, but like, and getting those doors open for her. But for me, like I'm still grieving the loss of what I thought I should have in the military, and seeing her get all those opportunities and me be like swept under the rug, shut, like I feel like every door I came to, they shut in my face. Like, why can't the doors be open? Like, why does she get those doors like wide open? Every door and window in the house are open for her, but all of them are locked for me. And my therapist just explained, like, I was grieving the loss of what I thought the military was supposed to be like, because that's what it was for her. And it wasn't like that for me.
I'm actually really glad you brought that up because I can actually relate so much to that. Like having an expectation, I think, especially as females, so many of us go into the military with an expectation of this is how it's going to be. And so, like, for me personally, there's a lot of things in my life that I felt like were unfinished, and I didn't want to pursue certain things like mental health wise because I didn't want to feel like my career in the military was unfinished if I got like separated for some reason. And I kind of sense like a little bit of that from your story too. And then,
Uh-huh.
I think a lot of other people can really resonate with just like feeling like something's unfinished. But I really just kind of want to reiterate this point that like it's okay if someone needs to get help if they're in the military and they're struggling or something happened. It's okay.
Or
And
anywhere. I feel like the civilian world's so much better about it, but like there's still so many people that are like, my career will be over, my life will be over, everything I like feel will be over if I get help. Can I share somebody else's story a little bit?
yeah, go ahead.
And I know that they won't mind. Um, but my husband was really good friends with this guy when they were in the Navy, and they went on multiple deployments together. He got out of the Navy, moved actually here to Colorado, and I was about to get out. Taylor had been out for many years before I got out, and we were about to move here. So Taylor had a friend, my husband, sorry, had a friend, and then I grew up here. So I was like, oh, perfect, win-win. About 3 months before we moved out here, he committed suicide. And I mean, yes, he had underlying mental health issues from being in the Navy. Don't get me wrong, that's definitely 100% there. But he was in school for pharmaceuticals, like pharmacy. So he had just finished his undergrad. He was about to go to like grad school to be a pharmacist. And he was doing all these things. And it seemed like his whole life was together. And then all of a sudden he was gone. But like, we don't think it's okay to talk about this. Like, we don't think, and I know that you have a kind of a story like that. I listened to your episode. Like, he was no longer in. He had been out maybe for 5 years at that point. Like, we're still battling these battles, and we're still like not talking about it. Like, why?
I haven't experienced the veteran side of mental health yet because I'm like in that process right now, but like I haven't heard great things. You might have a little more insight into this than I do because you've been out longer than me about how you feel mental health is on the veteran side compared to the active duty side. Um, is there anything that like you can share insight wise about how it is?
So I'm lucky. I have in Denver, they just built this beautiful brand spanking new VA hospital, gorgeous facility. These doctors, they rotate through the university hospital and the children's hospital and the VA hospital. They're all on one campus, and these doctors, these residents rotate through. So everyone's like up on their game. Everyone's like doing what they're supposed to do. And so I'm very fortunate. My husband had gone to the VA in Seattle before we moved down here. And he said that it wasn't great and he never went back. So I don't know much about like a bad VA. However, I tried to get into the mental health facilities. As soon as I got out, I came here. I was like, I need therapy. I was seeing a mental health person while I was in Washington. I was still in the Navy. And that was helping me. I think I need a lot more help. I'm not there yet. Please get me in. And they said, okay, here's your therapist. I saw her 3 times. I did not like her. We did not like click. And I said, hey, can I have a new therapist? And they said, well, no, you need to go to your current therapist, tell her you don't want to be with her anymore, and she will assign you somebody new. And I was like, bye. And I never went back. And then when I found out I was pregnant, because I found the hypnotherapist outside of the VA and all that. And she was fantastic. She helped me with so much. But if you ever have a chance to do that, I definitely suggest it because it'll change your perspective on you. But then I went back to the VA. I called them one day. I was like, here's the deal. Like, this is what you told me. I can't go back to this therapist. If that's the option, like, I'm not doing it. They're like, well, she's not working here anymore. Like, awesome. So send me to somebody else. And they're like, well, you don't really meet our criteria. So what we can do is send you to the vet center. I think they're all over the place, but there's a vet center here in Denver, and they have, I don't know if they're counselors, therapists, social workers, but they can see you. They don't have to you don't have to have like a certain criteria to go and see them. You can just like go. I mean, I had a referral from the VA to go there because I didn't meet the VA's criteria for mental health. And so they called me. They're like, okay, we can get you in like 3 or 4 weeks, which was a long time. But, I was like, whatever, 3 or 4 weeks is not as long as I would have to wait other places. And she's super booked up. So if I don't book my schedule, if I don't have like a recurring, or if I don't book it out, I can't see her for 3 or 4 weeks every time. And so if you are a vet, I definitely suggest, if you don't have a therapist and you want one, going through a vet center, because I think most of them offer therapy, but they also, I know, like I learned in TAPS class that they, like, if you're a homeless veteran or a homeless veteran, they can help with like homelessness. They help with a bunch of different things. It's a really great resource for veterans that I think a lot of us, we don't know about. And I remember learning about it in TAPS before we actually got out, but like hadn't looked into any of the resources until the VA was like, we can't deal with you, go somewhere else, and like sent me to the vet center. That was for mental health. For like medical stuff at the VA, again, I've been really fortunate, so I can't speak to like bad VAs, because mine is just like, it's new, and I feel like it's never going to get upgraded again, but right now it's new and I'm taking advantage.
No, I appreciate that you shared that resource, because I myself like don't even know where to start. So that is actually really helpful. Were there any resources that you felt were helpful for you while you were active duty?
I know a lot of people have a lot of good things to say about the chaplain. I don't, and I hate, like, I don't want to bad talk a chaplain, but like also they pretty much told me that if I had believed in God, then I wouldn't have been raped. So I stopped going. The Fleet and Family Services was a resource. I don't think it was a good one, because I saw a counselor there for a while and she did nothing for me. Like, I was telling her, this was like at the height of my panic attacks, when I was scared to sit on a toilet because what if a snake comes out? And I was scared to go to the shower because what if a snake comes out of the drain? I was scared to put my boots on in the morning because what if a snake is in there? And all these are just in my head, I know that. But she was like, yeah, just like try tapping your boots out, you're fine. I was like, okay, cool. Like, thank you. So mental health, but I've heard several of your episodes, and a lot of people say that there's a huge backlog for mental health. Like, I don't know. I know the thing that helped me the most going through mental health was my group, and like having these other ladies, just like, not even like, just understanding, like, and knowing that you're not crazy just changed my life. Like, that alone like helped me so much, because like now I'm not crazy. Like, this actually happened, and I'm like, these are normal responses to something tragic that happened to me.
Final question for you. If you were in charge of the Navy, what changes would you make to make things better for people like you?
That is such a hard question, because I think you have to like actually start cracking down on these instances. And I know they have NCIS, and I know that they are trying to find out the facts, right? But like, how many times can somebody be accused of rape and then like they're like, no, we couldn't find enough evidence before like they kick somebody out? Like, there's almost never enough evidence in a sexual assault case to convict somebody. Almost never. Like, I don't know the actual statistics, but I've heard them, and it's really low. I think that you need to like, I don't know, like, if there's even like background checks, because how many people are joining right out of high school that like haven't done something like this before? I think that we just need to be like, believe people that are telling us these things more, like, be better advocates for them. One of the things we talked about a lot when in my group, I call it my group, it was just our group, a group of victims, right? Is when you are sexually assaulted, you make a report, they give you an option to get an expedited transfer. out of your command and into a new command. If that person is in your command, if they're not in your command, you can't get an expedited transfer. Sometimes you can request it and they might send you to another like base altogether. But we talked about this a lot. How come if I report rape, I have to get the expedited transfer? I have to put my career on pause. I have to stop everything that I'm in the process of because something tragic happened to me. Why can't I just get the help I need and move forward? And they expedite transfer that guy. They stop his career. They like ruin his life. Stop ruining my life. Stop ruining the victims' lives. Like our lives are already fucked up. Thank you. We've been through it and we're working on it. Okay. Like you need to, like, even if it's just alleged, I could have, what if I was lying and you're going to expedite transfer me anyway? So even if it's an alleged sexual assault, get them out of there, send them somewhere else. Stop ruining the females' careers or the male who are the sexual assault victims. Stop ruining our lives because something bad happened to us, and start doing that to the alleged assaulters.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show today, Dani. I appreciate you sharing your story and for being vulnerable and providing so much value to not only active duty, but also veterans. And you have all my gratitude.
Thanks.
Thank you so much for taking the time to listen in today. Each week, I'll be bringing you value in the mental health space and its direct impact on service members and veterans. If you feel you personally got value today from this episode, it would mean the world to me if you would leave a 5-star rating and review and share this to your audience. Until next time, remember, your story matters, your mental health matters, and your story doesn't end here.